In today's episode, we're diving into the world of not-so-passive income and building the life of your dreams. If you're trying to put yourself out there more with content creation, or you're trying to monetize a side hustle, then today I have with me Rob Hope. He is the founder of OnePage Love and, of course, Yo.fm, and, well, a graveyard of projects that just never made the cut. He is an expert at partnering with brands and incredible people to build the life that he has today.
If someone listening is considering adding a directory of some curated inspiration that they truly love, like, you must go and do it. In this kind of industry we're in right now, where a lot of stuff is AI generated, a lot of watered down search results, people are spinning up sites that have no substance. Quick, everything. Like, when you find something that you truly resonate with and you go and, inspect it, admire it, capture it, preserve it, bring it in, total joy. And I would encourage anyone to do that. But don't forget is that curation there's a key word here that we haven't touched on, is that it saves time.
Hey, what is up? My name is Janae, and this is the Millennial Business Podcast.
All right, cool. Rob, welcome to my pod. You've been doing loads of pods lately. Funny enough.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
It's a unique format. It's cool to chat. I know we connected in London at the Webflow conf, which was rad. It's always a good way to lead into a pod.
Yeah, 100%. I thought I'd start this one off a bit different. I thought I'd go no context, 11 June or 1st of August.
Wow. It's not about me anymore. It's
No,
11th of June.
Oh,
Touche.
see? I had to.
Well
I was like, this is your whole thing. I might as well start like that. But anyway. But I think you do it really well. I mean, that's obviously your whole thing. But yeah, I thought I'd start this one off. I think we're both staffers, and I met you at Webflow Conf, and I never knew about you before, weirdly, but I knew about OnePage because I feel like you just kind of enter with that energy, don't you? That OnePage energy. And I was like, who is this staffer here in London taking over a room and like everybody knows about him? Like, how is this possible? And then obviously I got to know you, looked into you. I just figured out kind of your backstory as I got to know you and we got speaking. And I feel like you're a very well-rounded human being I don't mean this in a terrible way, but for a South African. Like, you've traveled loads. You're building tech companies. Like, you were like very multifaceted. So I want to kind of take us back to like childhood days in South Africa and just kind of figure out like the person that you are today is like a very specific, like very out there, like multifaceted. But how did it start out? Tell me a bit about your like childhood.
Awesome. Wow. I actually haven't really dug deep like this in a podcast before. It's so cool as well because I have the little boy now and, I get to see, I'm thinking a lot about his journey and like, where do you want to take him in life? And yeah, I've reflected so much about my childhood recently, having the little boy. So born and bred Cape Town, there's so many elements to my life that I want to attribute to where I am, but I like the word you used, how I kind of like well-rounded. And I reflect, and I mean, I try to say it humbly, but I have like quite a lot of friends and they're from so many different industries. I used to play in a band. I've spent, 25 years surfing, tech, nerdy friends, Pokemon on the bench at school. I birdwatch, like I nerd out on ultra levels, and I will go deeper on the beginning, but just to sum up the well-roundedness, I feel like when you aren't too narrow focused on one thing and you can kind of dabble in a little bit there, that's what creates depth. And I feel like that is probably a reason why a lot of people say I'm easy to get along with, because I always find something. No matter who I'm with, we'll be at a dinner, if there's someone I don't know, I'll just go straight to them and I'll find it. And then we get going. And like, I guess that's something I like doing. But just back on being, growing up in Cape Town, if I didn't surf, I don't know what I'd do. I started when I was like 12, 13, and that allowed me to always be outdoors, traveling, chasing waves, being with friends, camping, and just that, supportive parents that always allowed me to just just be outside and adventure. And I think that has shaped me a bit. Cape Town, as you know, it's incredible. Like, we have 2 coastlines. You can always surf. You can surf 365 days of the year. It gets cold in winter. It's never that cold. So we get out there. There's all like we can always get a mug. No, you're not going to compare it to England. But like, eventually, once I finished school, I was playing in a band at the time, and we were starved for bands. This is like the honest truth. Like, people are like, oh, Rob went to London, did some tech stuff, whatever. It's like, I went to London to see as many bands as I could. And I knew that bands love going to London on their world tours. And I was like, wow. So we arrived in London. It was my friend of mine, Steve. And we arrived. I mean, this is pre-booking online here. This is 2002. Arrived there for my gap year, 6 months. And I arrived at the ticket office, print out on paper. And I'm like, oh my word. System of a Down, Bad Religion, like just every band I'd ever sort of heard of. It was just like, cool, ticket. And then I had mapped out my next 6 months. Construction, just getting it done. So yeah, all over the place. But, I have an outdoor adventurous background that's actually kind of nerdy on the side with the bird watching. Played in a band, led myself to London doing that. And then that's when I started sort of building websites. I came back from London, started, got a degree, UNISA, UNISA.
Yes.
I studied information systems, got a degree just because I needed a proper degree. That's what I thought at the time. I need a proper degree, but I didn't want to go to UCT. I wanted flexibility. I wanted to work from home. And I was like, I need one to do with computers. So I got information systems, which like, whatever. But, but it's like quite well-rounded on, a little bit of economics, a little bit of accounting, a little business management. I don't totally regret doing it. I learned quite a bit. I also learned how to be diligent and study and, working in correspondence. And yeah, at the same time, started to dabble into websites. And as soon as I built my first site and then kind of shipped it, saw people using it, got some good feedback, then charged for one, then charged for another. And I was like, I'm on my way. There's no ways I'm doing anything else. There's freedom allowing me to travel and surf. After London, I went to Indonesia for 2 months, then cruised home, back to England for a little bit. Yeah, building websites has allowed me to be the person I am. It's allowed me that flexibility to do a lot. So surfing, bands, London, website building. That's kind of the
whole
upbringing.
thing. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's quite special because I don't know. I feel like South Africa is like a recipe to life. If you follow these steps, you'll be moderately successful. Go to a nice school, go to uni, study something that you hope will get you somewhere in life, and then find a nice girl and get married, go buy a house, have a kid, and then have a job and a 9 to 5, and that's you. Like, that was kind of like, this is going to be your life. And I find very few people stray from that recipe.
Yeah, totally. It's interesting, like the journey I took. I found my partner 15 years ago, and everyone's just getting married and doing the kid thing. And I was like, nah, dude, I got to spread my wings. I got to do stuff. We got to go to Europe. We got to go on surf trips. We got to go to Indonesia. And then it's kind of set on maybe not having a kid. And I was like, who really needs to get married, man? Like, everyone, like that. I know this is my partner for life. Why do we have to spend all this money to kind of please everyone else? Everyone just asking those questions. But it's interesting enough, and a total side story very quickly. It's just COVID hits and you kind of reflect on everything and you question everything. And you're like, what's the point really? Are we going to travel forever? So that's how we kind of unlock the next stage. But to your points on South Africans, for people listening, it blows my mind how many people will comment on the videos I make or just write me an email. Hey, listen to your podcast. I cannot believe you're from South Africa. And I don't know how to take it all the time. Someone DM me the other day and go, don't you feel like South Africa's holding you back? That's like the exact word he said. And I feel like it can, if you allow it to. You can make that excuse and you can, oh, we don't have electricity. I've been recording the podcast. The guests are pretty high profile. Their time's important. And some of the windows that I record, I don't have electricity because we're going through load shedding. So guess what? Get a battery, It's like I don't have
Make
problems.
it work.
I break down
I
those
love
problems.
that.
Yeah, I'm going to make it happen. So to everyone's point though, like, South Africa, unless you've been here, you don't know how special it is. Yes, we have massive problems, but everyone you meet has a story. There's massive depth if you actually spend an evening or a weekend away with anyone, pretty much. And I'm super proud, to be in South Africa, and I look forward to you returning one day.
Right, you just had to slide that in there, didn't you?
I just had to do it. I had to.
Listen, my husband wouldn't mind. He loves surfing as well. You two should meet. But yeah, I don't know. I would be one of those people who go, I feel like South Africa is holding me back. Like that was, I don't know so much now, because I feel like as I've gotten into like tech and like content creating and like building community, I found, oh, actually, this is possible. But if you'd asked me like a year ago, I'm very new to like actually like joining communities and networking online and meeting other people.
Yeah.
I've never been that whatsoever. And so for me, I felt like I have to be in the place for anything to happen. So I think probably my idea around it has changed now, and I feel like I'd probably be okay if I had to move back. But yeah, I don't know.
It's the timing in your life, though.
True.
You're younger than me, and I'm 40 now, and I'm definitely in that phase where I've been grinding online for a long time. And I guess if I was a lot younger and I did want to do that conference circuit and just network the hell out of everything I was doing, wow, being in London, absolutely incredible. Being in America, incredible. The tip of Africa, just to go cruise out quick, not easy. I had to get a visa. Visa cost an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
There is resistance, but it depends what's important to you. And right now, what's important to me is kind of getting offline, less relationships, deeper relationships, connecting with people that I admire. And that's the narrative of the podcast. It's all lifestyle business. It's like I'm trying to design a lifestyle where I can just have a rich, meaningful life. And South Africa is incredible like that. So yes, it all depends on the context of your life. I don't think it'll hold you back if you come back. Right now, don't kind of try fix what's not broken. Just you're on rhythm now. You're like the graph's going up, and let's keep rolling it.
We'll get there. Obviously, I think let's jump into like OnePage, because obviously I think that's like a major story. I don't want to get too many details because I feel like you've spoken about it a fair amount. But I do want to know how you went from like freelance web developer technically and like started OnePage. Like, how did you get the idea for it? Just quickly touch on that, just kind of like where it started.
Totally. So I try to do it in the context of someone else who's sort of intrigued how, like, oh my word, you got a side project that you monetized and you actually took the leap out of client work. There's a lot of people also go, oh, you're South African. The second most popular thing people say is that, what, you don't have any clients? Like, that's crazy, dude. How do you make money? Design blog. So when I was building sites for clients back in the day, the short story is that I was fascinated with how clients were so used to requesting a multiple page website. It just was the norm. Hey, can we please have a 5-page website? Here's our half a Word doc of content. Please spin it out, flesh it out. And what you do is you sort of dilute the pages. They have to be there. There's a lot of clicking around. It's a standard. So I was on this journey back in the day, and we're talking 2008. So 2008, I was on a journey to try and find references to people shipping good sites for their clients in a single page. That's it. That's basically it. And I couldn't find that many references. So what did I do? I used WordPress, and I spun up the dirtiest little blog ever. And it was just thumbnails all under each other. And they would just be like, cool, this is an app, 1-page website. This is a gardening service, 1-page website. And I didn't add reviews. The thumbnails weren't even retina optimized. They were tiny. I still remember it was 400 pixels by 211 pixels. Couldn't even get inspiration really looking at them, like you needed to go and click away to go to the website.
Zoom in real tight.
Yeah, exactly. I might as well just had a title. So anyway, so I started to collect them and curate them over time. And yes, it convinced my clients, great. But it opened up this world of, it was mine. I could work on it in my own time. And, no one was telling me what to do. Every client's telling me what they want. And here I am. It's like the world's your oyster, like they say. And like, this is my blank canvas of what the site must look like. Dark color scheme. Oh, let's change it to a light color scheme. Let's change the design. It's like that freedom and just, it's like, call it creative. It was brilliant. But now you've got like a little bit of traction. People like, wow, I'm also convincing my clients that there's OnePages. Oh, but also there's a use case of people saying, I actually want to build a side project with an app. These are great references. So there's I'm going to muddle up the middle, but what happened is that the more I saw people return and the more I started to chat to people and, that sort of community vibe, I realized that they needed a little bit more from the site. Like the websites would redesign. The sites would go offline. You would click a reference to a one-page app website and then all of a sudden you'd visit it and it's a multiple-page website. That's no good. That's not what I was after. So I had to think up ways, and this was really stimulating for me, problem solving. I got to work this out, chatting to friends, chatting to community. How are we going to solve this problem of websites going offline? And the more I invested into trying to add value on the site and made it better, the more people stayed on the site, the more people talked about the site, the more people linked to the site. And then eventually it just started to grow and grow. And like the answer there just quickly is that you need to add a higher resolution screenshot. At least if it redesigns, you've got this preserved long scrolling design. Secondly is that, at least mark it as offline. If it, like remove the link, save them a click, that's a better experience. And the third one, which is what we're recently doing, is I started to download the sites, just like one big compressed HTML file. And it's a cached version of the page and you can still sort of scroll it. Ooh. So the more invested, the more, the site grew. And then we started to experiment with monetization. I actually had like no idea it would ever make any money in the beginning. And, this is a lesson for anyone doing anything right now on the side that hopes to take the leap, is that often that one idea that you have no idea could be the one, but you need to invest a ton of time into it and you need to experiment and fail. I have failed so many times monetizing OnePage Love, and it's just a long innings. You got to enjoy the ride. But if you're looking to just make a buck and you're like, oh, this is kind of popular right now, but I don't love it, I don't think it's going to give you the edge to be creative with it and add the right value in the right places. Like, don't forget, I'm using the site like every day here. Even when I'm doing landing page audits now, I'm creating content for my course, my ebook that I launched in 2020. It's like I'm in OnePage Love all day getting references. What are people doing? And I'm like, I cannot believe I collected this 5 years ago. This is just so good, but it needs this. And then I keep tweaking it. So just to finish up is that I realized that the more I said no to client work and the more I invested in the site, naturally it would grow. More experimentation with monetization, make the site faster, make the search better, all that kind of stuff. I grew it to a point where it could just surpass my Cape Town expenses. And I say this when anyone asks, is that it's not that simple if you live in London or New York or Singapore or whatever. Like Cape Town expenses are pretty low and the site's earning US dollars. So it wasn't huge what I needed to get to take the leap. And, there's clients, they're asking for things. Some people aren't happy. I mean, most people are happy, but, a lot of people nagging, the narrative with having the client game, oh my word, SEO, like what happened? Did you see this AI thing? And it's just this like noise. And I'm like, wow, when I'm in my little bubble and silo with OnePage Love, it's just me in my little garden. And here I am. It's like peaceful in here. So what I want, and at the time I was like, if I can get the site to earn this much, I can fully take the leap. It's not as simple as I'm making it out to be, but one big part is that you're owning your time. The ways you monetize are generally in that passive sense. There's no ways it's passive income because I've been working on it since 2008 and I've put in 1 billion hours. So I need to make that ultra clear. But the fact that I can be in the mountain or surfing and I get those hits and sales and people are still visiting, every single month is 150,000 people if I'm there or not. So I love that. And I love that part of the internet and I own it. It's mine. I could go in for an hour. I'm going to leave it there.
No, I love that. I think it makes a lot of sense what you're saying in the sense of you're out on the mountains and you could still like be getting like those clicks and those notifications. Like I feel like that's the dream. That's where everyone wants to get to very much.
Feels good.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. But there are like loads of like inspiration sites popping up these days. Like you just said, it's like very popular. It's like the thing to do. You have like templates like rolling out for people who want to like try and start it. What is like a major mistake that you feel like a lot of them are making at the minute?
It's actually awesome to see the real niche ones roll out. Like there's ones just for website footers. There's ones just for OG like meta images. Like if you're trying to differentiate just based on your taste and curation with the goal to quit freelance or make a lot of money, it's like you're going down a difficult path. I love the idea of trying to curate to something you're truly passionate about. Like sometimes there's big typography or something that's whack sites or brutalist sites. Like if you really like brutalist sites, you like building brutalist sites. It's like I've seen them. You curate brutalist websites. You're on the hunt for them. People like, oh my word, these are great. You're like, hey, I also offer services where I create brutalist sites. Is there anything you like a direction of? Let's get going. That's smart for me. The biggest mistakes people are making is that they are probably trying to replicate existing sites where it should just be your creative outlet. Make it yours. It'll stand out like that. But the biggest mistake, the absolute biggest mistake, is that everyone is trying to add as much as possible. Like I used to have a favoriting system. I used to have likes that got abused. But like every single thing is more build. It takes up the UI. It's maintenance. Maybe using a third-party plugin, and then all of a sudden that like wrecks up, and then login systems. I've seen, I'd call them competitors, but they're all friends. I really hope every single owner of an inspiration site takes off and like makes money and quits a lot of their freelance work. I honestly, truly hope that happens. So like most people that DM me that have sites, I'm just trying to share as much as I can. But what people do is they're like, oh, people want to like add collections, and then they build out this entire section. It's got this login in the top, and it has to sync with Google. It's always prompting you to log in. And like maybe the majority of your users don't even want to save anything on your site, and they just want to browse really, really fast.
Yeah.
And I feel like the people aren't totally acknowledging what people want, and they just build out like this full fleet. One thing that blows my mind is colors. Respect to anyone who's done it, but I can't totally get that right on OnePage Live. I don't truly understand it. I have tags, like I have about 10 tags for like red, blue, green, whatever. And that's it. Like people will add like this website contained all these colors, and it's all there under the thumbnails. And it's like you click and sort, and I've never browsed like that. So anyway, personally, I'm not going to do it unless I want it on the site, unless it, offers value for me. I probably won't do it either. So yeah, that's a mistake I feel they're making.
No, I agree. I think what you're talking about a lot, like it reminds me a lot of another friend of mine, Connor Finlayson, who has like the Unicorn Factory, basically like a marketplace for freelancers. And he also like built it completely from scratch. And he said exactly what you just said, is like he has to like triple think of any feature that he adds onto it, just because like he has to think about the maintenance, how many questions will come back, how many people might run into an issue, like any even remote change that he makes, it has to be like really intentional. Otherwise he's like causing himself like hours and hours of work. So just because it's cool doesn't mean it has to be added onto your site. But yeah, no, there's loads of directories. It's insane. Like I literally saw a directory for directory sites yesterday, and I was like,
same.
Wow. I mean, we're going all the way out. You can find anything now.
I want to add there just quick is that if someone listening is considering adding a directory of some curated inspiration that they truly love, like you must go and do it. It's so much joy just, in this kind of industry we're in right now where everything's, well, not everything, a lot of stuff is AI generated, a lot of watered down search results. People are spinning up sites that have no substance. Quick, everything. Like when you find something that you truly resonate with, and you go and, inspect it, admire it, capture it, preserve it, bring it in, total joy. And I feel I would encourage anyone to do that. But don't forget is that curation there's a key word here that we haven't touched on, is that it saves time. So if someone is like you and they are after a reference and then they hop on Google Images for like brutalist websites, for example, it's just a scattering of like SEO juiced roundups, and like you land on that and it's just pop-ups and ads and like subscribe to a newsletter. So, but if you become a trusted source, within that niche, someone arrives and they're like, I know your flavor, I know your curation, I know your taste, I know you, and I really appreciate you saving me time. So that's value. That's why people will come back, because they know you're not going to mess you about, and you're going to deliver the goods. So yeah, time saving equals value.
Time saving. Love that.
Hey guys, what is up? Editing Janae here, and I'm actually sitting down editing one of these episodes that you are watching right this minute. And I can't help but think of all the creatives and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs that might be watching this episode. We have an incredible season sponsor. They are called Flow and Grow, and they solely work on maintaining Webflow websites. You can come to them with a template, you can come to them with your existing design, you can come to them with your current website, and they can build on it. They can add animations, they can add custom code. Go check them out. They have been so insanely kind to actually give us a discount code for 10% off every month, not just your first month, every single month. So go sign up with our code. They have been beyond generous.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you what you're saying. I think a main thing that sets OnePage apart is because people have seen you online and seen you create content, they kind of see you in the website. So because they know you personally, I think I wouldn't know who runs most of the directory sites at the minute. Like I would have no idea. Where with OnePage, I feel like there's such a feeling to it, and it's because people know you and you've been like creating content for ages. So my next question, and like when I kind of dived into your content, is you've been creating content for days. Like you've been at it. I feel like you've been creating content before it was like a thing to monetize or like to put your brand out there, to like build a personal brand. Like you've been doing content for ages. So why did you start like creating content? Did you know something that we didn't know?
Wow. Never really thought of it that way. When it comes to directories without like a faceless person, yeah, personal brand. The way the world's going is that brands are just wanting you to do everything. Go do this, buy this, subscribe to this. You relate more to a person. And I have to give the credit to Gary Vaynerchuk. I must give it to him. I know he's a bit noisy for a lot of people, but the timing with him in my life, him encouraging personal brand on Crush It and so on, and the content he's creating, yeah, it's definitely like whispers in my ear sometimes. Every time I'm thinking maybe I should do something faceless, like it's a bit of a reminder, like people want to interact with people. They want to know that there's a human behind this. That's also another problem with everything AI. I'm not here to like kind of dump on that, but how did I know to create content so long ago? I guess, you know what, it's definitely personal brand. Like I'm trying to just become more transparent, more vulnerable, like ask me absolutely everything. And that tends to work. The more I am like that, the more I connect with people. And don't forget, I'm on a journey for like deep, meaningful conversations with a lot of like as many people as I can that are similar to me. So being transparent and being the personal brand unlocks that. And that's a good thing. Conversations with people that listen to the podcast are more valuable than the money, like that's no question about it. So there's that element. The second element with creating content is creativity. So once I had kind of understood that I liked to build websites online, I actually like my own time. I like being offline as well. I like freedom. I like creating these things that work without me. And like I'm slowly chipping away at all this stuff. And I actually got to really interesting place once I had taken the leap, because you're working your whole life, and this is definitely advice for anyone who's on this massive journey to take the leap and not have clients, is that once you get there, you're there, and it's like you just want something else. It's you. I remember sitting there and I had like way more time, and I was just sitting there going, okay, I'm now like curating sites. What now? And I remember that feeling going cheapers, I was actually like quite stimulated with some of the client problems and issues, and solving those was quite good. A side step is that I would strongly advise just sticking with one or two of your best clients if you do want to take the leap, just so you can step away from your projects for a little bit, riff a little bit, like learn. Sometimes they're going to pay you to learn new tech and bring it back into your own projects. But what happened to me is that this is around about 2017, late 2017. I remember I was like not that stimulated. And I just said to myself, okay, we have to take it to the next level. A lot of reading, people saying, do things you're afraid of, do things that are difficult. Those are the ways to grow. And obviously, like online, I want to grow. This whole journey, I want to grow until the day I decide I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to keep learning. Makes me feel alive, young, et cetera, et cetera. But what I did is this January 1st, 2018, I just said, cool, I'm going to start a YouTube show. I don't know how to use a camera, never used a camera, don't know how to speak in front of a camera, don't know how to edit, never used editing software. And on the 1st of January, I gave myself 30 days to create this show that I'd want to watch. And that's actually the origin of Yo. Not a lot of people know that, is that Yo started off as like this design development news show. And I used to just speak in front of the camera and say like, this week, sketch released sketch, 25, and it does this. But I integrated music, and then I would find someone who did a time-lapse drawing. And then I would throw that in the middle of the show, and I would add like some full-on trance music. And it's like, it just breaks into someone like time-lapsing some beautiful art. And then it would break into me reviewing OnePage websites. So I created this show that month. The 1st of January 2018 till the 1st of February was no question the best work month of my life. I would go so deep into Premiere Pro, and I thought I had something. And then 2 days later, I would look back at what I thought I knew, and I was like, dude, you knew nothing. You knew absolutely nothing. Two days later, he was like, you thought you knew something. You knew nothing. I never forget, I recorded this little pilot for a friend. And I mean, he's like in the film industry, and he's really good eye for stuff. And he's like, Rob, what you've done by yourself here, like in this bedroom in your house, having not used a camera like 24 days ago, I think I showed it to him on the 24th. I'm like, we're shipping next week. He's like, dude, it's incredible. Honestly, incredible, but it's unwatchable. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, the audio is so bad. The audio is so bad. It is like bouncing around your cupboards and whatever. He's like, dude, I have a lapel mic. Hook it up, re-record it all again. And then I did it. But don't forget, at that point, it's like you're way faster here. And like I'm in the 0 to 1 phase leading up to that. So exactly like the Yo podcast now is like I'm creating a format, and that's why it takes so long. Like what does it look like when I start reviewing OnePage websites? What does it look like when we have a time lapse, intermission? That takes super long. So I already got there. So anyway, the re-recording was quick, and I must admit, and that's a lesson in itself. Anyone creating a course, anyone doing a YouTube video for the first time, just record the entire thing again, and it is like 5,000% better than that first version. You know what to do. It's just a clean take. So to answer your question in like a massive rambling way, is that creating content is like sort of a byproduct of me just trying to be creative online, to challenge myself. And I started making video at that point. And once I had done 30 episodes in 30 weeks, I got a sponsor and everything. I reached total burnout. The views sort of plateaued. It was like sort of the same. Music was too loud. It was too fast. It was like very much like how I like things. But, people are like, cool, that's cool. So I called it a season. And at that point, I got way better in video. And next thing you know, I was doing tutorials for Squarespace based on that. And then it kind of organically, when I got better at Squarespace, who were paying me to learn as I go, I started to make my own videos for my own stuff. Then I was like, cool, ebook. I'm not going to get into the details of all the things I've shipped, but the journey of creating content online was an organic one, but it was all spawned from me just wanting to be creative online.
That's insane. I feel like I can relate to that story so much, because I'm also like that, where I would just find a new thing and I would just dive into it and just learn editing in like a week and just be obsessed with it. And then
it's the best.
Great. And then the next thing comes and you like learn. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like humans these days must be really smart, because I feel like I tend to learn skills like really quickly, and you kind of have to. Being a creator in today's day and age, or a web designer, or even anything in like this kind of industry, new things are dropping on a daily basis, with like new tools happening, new ways to be creative, new ways to like put your work out there. Okay, now you have to learn this, like now you have to learn jitter, and then you have to figure out Figma and all its million components, and then you have to do video editing, and then like I think it's insane, and like script writing, and now you have to be a writer, and now you have to journal every morning. Like it's just madness. And I'm like, do normal people do this? It's like, it's just ridiculous. But I guess it makes you the interesting human that you are. And I feel like because you have so many like different interests, I feel like you have a really cool kind of approach to all of these different things. I did catch that YoFM started as a series, which I find insane. Like, how did it go from like video series to like, I'm just going to do audio pods for my first season? Like, how did you kind of make that decision?
Good question. I haven't really spoken a lot about this. Is that 30 episodes, 30 weeks, the sponsor we got, it was such a cool story because the timing when I launched the show, and don't forget the show was for me. Hey, it was for no one else. It was me challenging myself. So when I dropped it on February 1st, 2018, I remember I don't even know what it did. I think designer news. I think I don't even know how I tweeted about it. I had no followers, and then it's like, like relatively low followers. And then I put it on the side, and then it just got picked up. Like, wasn't crazy views at all, but I swear I got about 2,000 YouTube subscribers in 24 hours. It was like, since then, it's like, that's how it peaked. Because it was so unusual. And most of the best stuff I've made online is where I've just like gone, what did I want to do here? Like I've got no brand telling me there's any handbrakes on anything. Like, let's do some funky stuff. And like, I made it mine. I made it like really creative. So when people saw it, they're like, I've never seen something like this. And it was really interesting. I think it got 200 comments as well. And it's just like, maybe it was featured in a few places. I promise you is that you start off with this intention to do weekly, and a big takeaway for anyone, and I know I've told you the same, is that if you're about to embark on this journey where you promise online and you have clients and you have life's responsibilities, you actually want to travel and like have a break and go on holiday, you have to ask yourself, how does this stop? How can I take a break? And seasonal is a total win for this kind of stuff. So I had no intention of stopping. Honestly, after the first episode where it blew up so much, I was like, I'm a YouTuber. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And then it's like, it's sort of plateaued, the same show 30 times in a row. And then like burnout was real. I can't even look at the screen kind of burnout. Anyway, took a break, traveled to Europe, asked myself what I want to do. And it was like, I don't actually want to create the same show again. It's like, I did that and it was really cool. But I've heard of this podcast thing. And then I wasn't big into podcasts. So I kept asking people like, what do you like about podcasts? And someone would tell me like, oh, I love walking in the mountains and just listening to like a 3-hour conversation between like two nerds. I'm like, okay. And then ask someone else. They're like, oh, I like, a 20-minute bite while I'm on my way to work. Summarized, highly edited. So scattered. It's so subjective. What do you want to do? So I asked myself again, it's like with a podcast, what I truly want to do. And it was like, this is the podcast I'd want to listen to. I want games. So again, it's like I have this format. If anyone listening hasn't heard it, it's like I kind of start off and we shoot the shit and just like loosen them up. And then we go into a game. I really want them to laugh a little bit, like put down their guard. And then I throw in something spicy, something they weren't expecting. And then they were like, oh, okay. And then we go into a bit of like what they're up to, try and make them feel good. Obviously, I'm a lot of podcasts like they go too hard on like the fanboy side of things. Oh my word, what you've done is so amazing. I try like bring that back slightly, and I just be like, hey, what I saw you do was rad. I learned from that. That was cool. Like that's the tone I sort of want. So we keep it on the same level, and then once we really like once it starts to fade slightly because we've really covered it. That's when I go into another game, pick it up again, and then we speak about something light. And then I like to end kind of deep at the end because now they're like they know me, like we're in a safe space. And that formula took a long time, but in 2019 when I started the first episode, we had the games and I was refining. I knew for a fact that I had to just ship again I couldn't just make the podcast I wanted to in the end. I needed to learn while doing. So using all the connections I had on OnePage Love, I targeted a few people. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. It's going to be on OnePage Love. I always have that leverage, which I'm thankful for with OnePage Love. It's like anyone who gets featured is going to be on OnePage Love. We're going to go out in the newsletters. It's an easier ask than just out the blue. But what's cool is that I got an exclusive with AJ from Card, who built the Card website builder. He had never been on a podcast, and no one had ever heard his voice before. And he's mysterious, and he uses this like avatar that's become super famous. No one knows who AJ is. No one's still seen him to this day. But anyway, no one had heard his voice, and I thought to myself, yeah, no, totally. No one's ever seen AJ before from Card. He had never been on a podcast, and I said to him, dude, I'm starting this podcast. Card, OnePages, I've reviewed it everywhere. There's such a perfect cross promotion on what you're doing. Let's do it, man. I'll buy you a mic. And he's like, dude, I don't know, not so sure. And he's like, actually, I'll just get a mic. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so I hopped on, and it was by far my most awkward podcast. It's just like, I'm like, hey, dude. He's like, hey, man. He's like, first of all, he's never spoken to anyone before. And it was cool. Like, that's one way to, if you're not looking back at the first episodes and going, they're total cringe, you're probably not growing. Cliche saying as well. But anyway, so what happened at that point is once I'd landed AJ as the first, everyone within my space was just like, how on earth did you get this guy to be on a podcast? And it was such a great launch for the Year podcast. And then from there, I just had such cracking guests, like Steve Shoga and Adam Watham and those guys. And yeah, it just on its way. But to kind of answer your question, video started off as this creative outlet in 2018, weird news show, just like super creative. And then it kind of went into an interview series, which is extracting value from the guests, people I admire. I'm getting answers to questions I want to know. And then it sort of organically like took some breaks while I'm building stuff and, launching side projects. I said, this has to work within my lifestyle. And then with Webflow sponsoring OnePage Love, the narrative opened up and they said, hey, we'd love to sponsor your podcast. And I was like, so much work, so much work. They're like, well, can we maybe let's take this to the next phase. Let's make this video. And I was like, wow, editing video for an hour. Like, that's crazy. And they're like, yeah, let's talk about it. And we kind of riffed a lot. And they're like, yeah, and they supported it in a big way. And here we are. So season 3, supported by Webflow, all video. And feedback's pretty good.
Feedback's pretty decent, eh? How many episodes do you have left?
Right now, we've released 3. It was Grace Walker. We got 9 for the season, but only 5 are recorded. I still got 4 outstanding. I mean, full transparency, I only found out the other day that Rasmus Anderson had a baby. So I assume maybe he's not on. But yeah, it's just, I got to record 4 left. I've recorded 5. The editing happens every single day of my life, a lot of nights. And I'm getting way faster. Like, I've hired someone to help me with my visuals. So the visuals you see sometimes in the intermissions. Yeah, finally. Yeah, it's a massive journey. But I mean, what is the goal? I know you didn't ask this, but like, what do we want out of it? And like, I want to connect with people, but I also need the podcast to be sustainable. Like, having a 10-month-old boy now and editing at nights, it sucks. A lot of nights I don't sleep properly at all. And then I got to pull in, like, I got a deadline coming up. Totally sucks. So I need to create some form of business if I'm going to continue with editing help, graphics help, research help. We got a very tight recording window so we can batch this thing and then send it off. A lot of people don't realize once you hit publish on YouTube, and there's still a bit of a journey after that point. There's distribution, there's newsletters, there's social, there's repromo, hardcore. So yeah, where we at? We're in a good place. It's creative, it's something new. My heroes, I'm interviewing them. Yours in a good place.
You're doing amazing. You're doing insane. I mean, I think the main thing, especially when I just said, hey, I'm thinking of like starting a pod, like, any advice? I was like, Rob, need you right now. And Shami were amazing. I think what impressed me is like your approach on like how you're reaching out to guests and like how you get like these big guests on. Like, obviously, like, Card was a big guest, but you also have like other really cool guests as well. Like, how are you reaching out to these people and convincing them to come on to the pod?
Wow. So, a lot of people will DM me and they'll be like, hey, you really should ask this person, you know, like I'd love to hear you riff with this person. And I'll like look at the person and like, I don't really know this person. And I'll see they have like a whole bunch of followers. And I was like, yeah, it'd be probably good for the show, but I don't know them. So I can't get to the good stuff, you know? And also I don't just want another person on the podcast. Like honestly, I really admire every single person that I've interviewed. So I need to know them. So a lot of the times I will actually, at that point, I'll probably just follow the person and then I'll just suss what they're doing on Twitter. And like, if I really like their stuff, then I'll start subscribing to the newsletters. And I mean, it's a massive journey with everyone. Like everyone that I've interviewed, I would have followed for years and consumed their content. But an easier ask, I mean, for anyone who's starting a podcast and wants to know how to get a good guest, is you need to remember that time is super precious for someone who's, you know, prolific and shipping a lot of stuff. You know, there's an exchange here. You know, what can you offer them?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time is that I would have featured this site or startup on OnePage Live, the launching soon page, and I had brought them thousands of people, like thousands of signups. So there's that leverage up front. So ask yourself, how can you, you know, have any form of leverage? And what happens is that people get, oh, Rob, he's like OnePage Live. Sometimes they'll follow me, and that is just such an in. Is when someone starts following me, we start going back and forward for like a few months. And then, like, I don't know, where someone will DM me and just say something. And then I'll be like, hey, dude, I really like what you're up to. Do you want to jam on the podcast? It's the most organic ask. The success rate is so high. There's definitely some people I've asked that have said no. I'm just too busy, which I totally respect. I'll give you an example. Try and add a little value is that, you know, like Type Wolf, that guy, Jeremiah, like he hasn't been on any podcast, but I really admire his site. And I really want to know, like, behind the scenes, what's happening. So I like asked him, he's like, dude, super busy, but we've been rapping now. It's been cool. Orman Clark from Lemon Squeezy, Premium Pixels. I've asked him like so many times. I've asked him too many times. I feel like we're close though, but you know, I keep trying every year. Again, he's like a hero of mine, like full transparency. Like I love him on. I feel like we could have such a good session. But how do you ask? You got to have a little bit of leverage. You have an in. Sometimes someone will tag you on Twitter going, hey, Rob, I'd really like you to, you know, this person. Then they start following me and then we start going.
So the major thing that I would take away is that you actually have something to like offer your guests, which is huge.
Yeah.
When I'm reaching out to like guests and stuff, I don't technically have that leverage yet. So I'm trying to figure out like ways to do that, like more creative ways to do that, to have conversations with me to convince people. But I think that's a really good point that you made. So that's something that we should all consider. You're not going to like get to the top people straight away. It's kind of like a bit of a build.
Yeah, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. My next question, and one that I think I'm probably most interested in, and this is also my final question, so thanks for hanging out. But this one is more towards just something that I admire about you, which I'm a little blown away, to be honest, is your ability to like have companies buy into you as a person. So like your sponsorship with like Flywheel and then Lemon Squeezy and then Squarespace and Webflow, like you have this ability to convince them to like bet on you as a person. There's no like fancy thing in the background. They're technically betting on you and it's you creating the content. How on earth did you do that? That's what I want to know.
No, great question. So one thing, again, you know, the same as the guest is that, you know, having started in 2008 and having committed to OnePage Live over all the years, maybe there's a bit of building in public where they get to see what's happening behind the scenes. I shared quite a lot of transparency stuff. They know I'm in it. I'm going to be reliable. I've done it before. You know, brands like working with people that have worked with brands before. So, you know, maybe making it publicly known that, you know, you're sponsoring this brand is enough for another brand to know that you've, you know, gone that course for a while. Once I lock in a guest for a year, like right now we have Webflow signed for a year. It's like I'm on podcasts. I'm telling people they're signed up for a year. Now other brands are listening to that for sure. But you know, how do they get you in the first place? It's like you've built something. You have that leverage as well. You know, they want me to be loyal and an advocate for their brand. And there's no better way to do that is if I actually use the product. So that's a good start to this, is that, just having any brand sort of sponsor what you're doing and you don't use them or don't know them, it's not a great organic fit. So with Flywheel, I hosted my whole network of sites with them. OnePage Love is hosted with Flywheel, which is now WP Engine. So maybe at the time when I launched that show, and I never really covered on this, I cover this quick, is that the show launched, 1st of February 2018. And I swear, I don't know, I change this number all the time every time I recall the story, but like within an hour, the CEO or the co-founder, Rick, of Flywheel messaged me, just short mail, like one line. Dude, really like what you're trying to do here. We'd love to support you. That was it. And then the rest is history. Also, I had no idea on the number, like no YouTube subscribers, no views. And I can't remember the number at the time, $300 for 30 episodes, $9,000 back then. And I was like, that's all my lighting and gear, so like incredible. But like props to the brand. So that was, maybe he looked me up to see if I was a customer. And then like that works, because then all of a sudden the show would have that intermission and go, hey, check out Flywheel. I use them. And it's just such an organic pitch. And that's really how I think advertising should be. Lemon Squeezy, I mean, I've been rapping with the dudes for years. Gilbert, who is, he was on the Yo podcast. I've been trying to get Orman forever. JR is such a legend. He had been involved with, a lot of building back in the day with Marketplace. We've just been rapping behind the scenes. I approached him and, I said, hey, dude, really like what you're doing. I was an early supporter of Lemon Squeezy. I had moved away from Gumroad. I was a big fan of theirs. I'm on their homepage. They use me as a testimonial. And then I just said to him, dude, I'm thinking about doing season 2 of the podcast. What do you think of this, this, and this? And then we just got rapping. Webflow team, I must commend, absolutely must commend. Their approach to me was just so good. And like, I didn't approach them. We had been rapping lightly for years and years and years. But the team there just went up to me and they said, dude, again, exactly like Rick in Flywheel. He's like, how can we support you? Like, how can we like keep you doing what you're doing online? Because, a lot of people are probably in the situation where they're like, dip in monetization and they're like, oh, I got to get back onto freelance and like, I got all these expensive. They're like, what can we do, to like keep this going and make it better? Like that was a narrative.
That's amazing.
And then we got riffing.
Yeah.
But as Squarespace as well, I must give them credit too. The team there was phenomenal, very professional. And what we did is we basically, they approached me and they said, hey, we see you got some traction with OnePages and we've got some OnePage templates. So again, I had the leverage there. And a quick sidestep is that Webflow have a Google ad, I think, bidding on OnePage Love, and it sends like people to the Webflow site for OnePages. So they knew of me too. There's no question about it. Like they're targeting the search term OnePage Love within their campaigns. So anyway, so on Squarespace, they're like, hey, can we please, can you write a tutorial in your own words on how to build a one-page website with Squarespace? And I landed up doing a YouTube video. It was the first YouTube video I ever did. I think because it was early, I think it's got like 70,000 views. It still probably gets them signups.
Wow.
But years ago, they approached and they're like, let's try this out. And it was really funny because I had a rate at the time that wasn't high. And they're like, would you do it for this much? And it was like 5x of my rate. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure. No, I'm sure we can work it out.
I must. I mean,
I can work it out. And then what happened is that did well. And then they said, hey, can we do another one? Because again, with Webflow, like we didn't sign 12 up front. We did 1 month and 1 month and 3 months, then, 12 months. So with Squarespace was 1 month, then 1 month. And then as soon as we got traction, they're like, Rob, we really love working with you. Let's just not muck about anymore. Let's just do 12 tutorials in 12 months. You get to list 20 topics that you feel your audience will dig. And then we'll handpick the ones we think will work with our brand. And then you just got to write these tutorials in your own words. And we roll them out once a month. So we signed a contract. And then we did that for years and years and years. What a great form of monetization, creating a tutorial, like getting paid to upskill. And don't forget, Squarespace, strong brand, look good, They've got great one pages. I totally give them the credit there. But where we are now with Webflow, it's just incredible. My personal sites with Webflow, went to the conference, spoke at the conference, meeting the community is just awesome, awesome, awesome. I need to add one more bit just to finish up here, is that a lot of people at these brands have mentioned that I'm very thorough. You got to acknowledge that they're dealing with a lot of content creators, probably mixed languages, mixed campaigns all over the world. And what would they want to see in an email when it's just before publishing an article or tutorial on a deadline? And I acknowledge that in a huge way. So, with Squarespace, when I do a tutorial, I would just reply to them saying, here is the first draft, or here's the draft. And it was always it was pretty much 99% of the way. This is for legal. I have the license for this image, this sound effect, there. And it's we created a fake restaurant for Joe's Sushi or something based in this country. I would make a website based on this made up brand. But I looked into it and I was like, this brand does not exist. I just made sure there's no clash here. These visuals, I use this icon, these images are all Unsplash, whatever. The entire thing I created Squarespace. Don't forget is that their legal is we don't want problems. So take the problems away. And guess what happens when you do that every single time and it comes to renewing a contract for 12 months? They're Rob gives us the least pain and his performance does pretty good. We're renewing with Rob. So same with Lemon Squeezy, same with Webflow. I'll say one more thing, last thing is that with the podcast now, after, for example, the Dan episode and the Raji episode, I have a Notion doc and I have a table of how things are doing. Within the link for YouTube, I will have time-stamped references to where there's any talk of Webflow or whenever there's a visual, a logo. So it'll be at 10 seconds, there's the big Webflow logo. At 1 minute 20, we mentioned this. Oh, here's the sponsored ad which talks about this. So it means that someone who's super busy, and it's a shareable doc with the whole team, they just go in and they're just clicking. It's just Webflow. They don't want to go through an hour interview. So yeah, it's an acknowledgement like that. And I make it very clean and easy for them to assess how things are doing and to visually see everything. I'll take screenshots of absolutely everything and they love it. All of them have replied to me saying, Rob, we love working with you. We just used all your documents that you sent us in a team meeting just to show what content creators can actually do. They've literally said those exact words.
Wow, that's amazing. Jeez.
Yeah, make it thorough, make it clean, acknowledge they have minimal time, spend the effort. I spend so much time on this stuff, and that's probably why I still create content for so long. I think that answers it.
Probably why this is my life. That's amazing. Oh, geez. I feel like that's something that I'm not great at, and I'm gonna have to learn because I just got a sponsor for season 1. So now I'm thanks, and it's both a good thing and I guess bad thing because now I have to completely level up what.
It's a good thing.
I don't even know if I would have. Yeah, I don't even know if I would have done it differently. To be honest, I did always want to put out something really good, but I think now my marketing head needs to go whoop. Now I have to be really good at marketing and really good at tracking links and figuring out, how can I make it the best for the sponsor coming on? Because I so much respect. Like you said, it's about the company and the fact that they're actually backing you. What a privilege. I feel like that's amazing. So it's so new. So yeah, they're definitely having a lot of faith in me, which I'm very happy about. So no pressure. But thanks, Rob. It's been emotional.
It's good. It's good for me to reflect. I got my blinkers on and I'm just editing at the moment. Editing and family. That's it. So for me to just take an hour and just reflect on the journeys, it's always healthy for me. So thank you.
100%. No, I appreciate you coming on. We will probably chat again. I'm excited to see the rest of the episodes. But yeah, we'll speak again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob.
Cool. Ciao, bye.
Bye.